All right, folks, it is Friday once again. Time for another episode of Orbit. And this week is a very exciting week. Also, a little bit disappointing because I did plan to have a guest on the show, but I got so swamped with other stuff this week that I completely forgot to check with them to make sure they were able to do it. So it looks like I'm going to be riding solo for this week. But next week, hopefully, I'm going to see if I can get David on the show to give his first impressions after 2 weeks of primarily gaming on his Series X because I really want to pick his brain about that. But this week I'm going to be riding solo for a bit of a shorter episode where I'm just going to be talking about my first week with the PlayStation 5 and how it's been. How do I feel about next gen so far? Things I like, things I dislike. Um, let's jump right into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the DualSense controller. Now, right out of the box, if you guys watched the unboxing video, I thought that controller was absolutely beautiful and it felt a lot better than the DualShock 4 in some ways, but then in other ways, I didn't like it as much as the DualShock 4. I might be in the minority here, but I feel like the DualSense is just a little bit too big or just a little bit too thick. It's not something that's really hampered or gotten in the way of my gameplay, but for instance, I was playing a VR game on the PS5 via backwards compatibility, and I had to use the DualShock 4, and just the size of the DualShock 4, I think I liked a little bit better than the size of the DualSense controller, but it's not really a deal breaker. I think that overall, the whole package of the DualSense controller really sells me more than what the DualShock 4 offered. The battery life of the DualSense controller seems to be fairly good. It seems better than the DualShock 4 controller did. I'm able to play for pretty much an entire day without really having to charge it up. And a few things about it. On the DualShock 4, one of the big issues, especially early on, was the light bar on the front would drain the battery. That's why later on in the PS4's life cycle, Sony added the feature to dim the light bar, but even still, you could not turn it off completely. With the DualShock controller, I noticed that in a few games, for instance, Demon Souls and Spider-Man Miles Morales, it turns off those two light bars on the side completely to preserve battery, I assume. And it just has the one indicator light telling you that the controller is turned on, which is a very nice function. I like that. It saves battery. I'm able to get very, very long play sessions out of Spider-Man Miles Morales and out of Demon Souls without my controller dying. That being said, the battery life, I still wish it was better. I still feel like it could be longer. I much prefer the battery life on the Xbox controllers or even on the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, where I can play that thing for hours and hours on end and not have to charge it for at least like a day or two. But the main attraction with the DualSense controller, besides just the comfort and the battery life, is really the haptic feedback and the adaptive triggers. And I think that those things are handled extremely well with the DualSense controller. The big question, though, on my mind really is how viable are these things going to be in the future for DualSense? Are these features going to be features that are used a lot in the future, or are they going to be things that are more or less kind of forgotten in the same way that some of the features of other controllers were forgotten? Like on the PS2, the analog buttons that reacted to the pressure that you put on them, those weren't really used in a ton of games. And on even the PS3 with the 6-axis motion controls, which again weren't used in a whole lot of games past launch. I'm wondering if the same is going to be true of the DualSense's haptic feedback. I think the one thing that's probably going to stick the most is the adaptive triggers, because I think that that has the most potential. The haptic feedback itself is still very impressive, but it's a question as to whether or not developers are going to utilize it. And for me, I'm just not entirely convinced yet that the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers are a truly I guess, necessary thing. Is this something that gives this platform an edge over other platforms? Is this something that would make me say, I want to play this game on PS4? Speaking of like a third party game, like I want to play this third party game on PS5 as opposed to on Xbox Series X. I apologize if I just said PS4. It's still hard to transition. I've only had this thing for a week. I'm so used to throwing out PS4. But with PS5, it's like, is the adaptive triggers and the haptic feedback enough to pull me away from other platforms for me to say, well, I want to have this experience on PlayStation 5 because of this feature. I don't think so for me, but I guess it would have to depend on, each individual case by case scenario. Another thing that's very nice here, and one thing that complements the DualSense, and I plan on doing a full review of this controller because I'm just that impressed by its feature set. The 3D audio capabilities of the PlayStation 5. I think that the 3D audio and just the audio design in a lot of games, in combination with the DualSense, is what really makes it compelling. For instance, if I'm playing a game like for instance Astro's Playroom, this is an example that I've said to pretty much everybody that I've been talking to about PS5 who hasn't had one yet. There's a part in Astro's Playroom where you're in a ball, and in that ball you're rolling over some rough rocky terrain. Now, on its own, you can feel the vibrations, and they do feel pretty, like pretty accurate to how it would feel if you're in a car or something riding over some rocky terrain. You're feeling the bumps of the road. But the combination of that haptic feedback plus the audio design there really makes it feel more real. There's also, the speaker and the controller, which when you're playing Spider-Man, if your headphones are off, then you're going to be hearing the thwap of the webs, or the thwip of the webs, when you're shooting them out and swinging through the city. And that combined with the haptic triggers really enhances the experience overall. So I think that the audio in combination with the haptics really does at times deliver feelings of absolute, enhanced immersion. That being said, I'm just not sure. I don't think that I've seen a case where I could say that the haptics and everything have really enhanced the experience for me. I think that it's a cool feature and I like it. I don't want it to go away, but it's just that could I live without it? That's the question, and the answer is I think for right now, yes, I could. If the PlayStation 5 had not shipped with haptic feedback, I wouldn't really have cared. But back to the 3D audio, it's very impressive. I've played Demon Souls and I played Spider-Man and I played Astro's Playroom, and they all use 3D audio to some degree. I think Demon Souls uses it the best, especially because Demon Souls is a very quiet game where there's going to be enemies creeping around every corner, and you can really it really is a lot easier to discern where exactly the enemies are coming from, where you can hear them, and it makes the environments a lot creepier when you can hear sort of like the creaks and the moans of the enemies. It really does help to put me in that scenario. Again, this is a feature that I've yet to see. I've only played a handful of games that were, designed with PS5 in mind. I played Demon Souls, I've played Spider-Man, and I've played Astro's Playroom, and I've played Bugsnax. Those are the 4 games that I've got right now for PlayStation 5. And, I mean, the 3D audio is nice, but I'm not sure if it's really... I'm not entirely convinced of it yet. I'd have to hear it in a different game for me to fully understand it. And speaking of games, let's talk about the performance here. Next generation performance in these titles. Now, I've recently, as recently as today, I just wrapped up Spider-Man Miles Morales. It was a very short game. Let me see. I got it yesterday, and I just finished it almost completely today. I just need to run through New Game Plus in order to get the Platinum Trophy, and then I'm pretty much done with the entire game there. But man, the ray tracing in that game and the lighting in that game, the texture quality and the fidelity, all of that are so amazing in Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's really does feel like a step forward from what we had on PS4. Like, if you look back at Spider-Man PS4, it looked good. It looked great. But this game is just, you can clearly see that everything is much sharper, much crisper. Like the lighting and the details and the ray traced reflections on the buildings make everything look so much more realistic. This was a game that really made me sit here and be like, wow, this is some next gen performance. I know for a fact this could not be done on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One X. This is some next gen stuff. It was incredible. I kept stopping to look at the game, and I kept stopping to look at the details and and getting close up looks at the textures on clothing and the reflections when I would be running up a building, and it was just all so amazing. And then like the lighting when I'd be walking through areas like say I'm walking through an area with like a grated ceiling and you can see the light beams coming through the grated ceiling, and it was all very, very impressive there. And Demon Souls as well. Now Demon Souls doesn't use ray tracing, but and I'm not sure all the techniques that are used there, but just the detail and the texture and the lighting that they're able to pull off with that game, everything just looks so sharp and so good in Demon Souls. It really is a game that's a sight to behold, honestly. And even Astro's Playroom, it's not the most graphically impressive game, but it was very colorful. Everything was very sharp. The textures and everything, it was just like the whole experience. The whole experience was just a very beautiful experience. I had a great time playing all of those games, really, and I feel like the performance for next gen so far has been very promising. And these are all very early games for next gen. These are all launch games. These are games that aren't really showing off the full breadth of the capabilities of the PlayStation 5 hardware. We've still yet to see a game that's truly utilizing the SSD to its fullest potential. And I think that we're going to be seeing that with Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. I'm very excited to see that game. Um, that's really like one of the big games that I'm looking forward to is Ratchet and Clank. We were also seeing um, we're also going to be seeing Horizon Zero Dawn, and I believe Jim Ryan came out and said, and honestly, I'm skeptical about a lot of things that Jim Ryan said because there's been a lot of miscommunications around the PS5's launch in terms of things that Jim Ryan said. But he said that Spider-Man Miles Morales and Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West are both being designed from the ground up for PlayStation 5. Now, I don't know about that. I'll have to see to believe, really, because they are games that are being ported onto PS4. But I mean, yeah, I'm really holding my breath for the truly generational exclusive first party Sony titles that are going to push the hardware to its limits. And again, let's segue off of the hardware and let's talk about that SSD. I've mentioned it a few times here. The load times on the PlayStation 5 are absolutely insane. You're able to load into Spider-Man Miles Morales and start your game in a matter of like 5 to 6 seconds. It's lightning quick. Switching between games is so fast. Going back to the menu and navigating your apps and games is so fast. Everything is just so smooth and so quick and so seamless. Now, it's not instant. You are going to have to sit and wait for games to load a little bit, but it's so much quicker. I mean, just navigating the menus is so much quicker. Navigating and getting to where you want to go is so much quicker. And that was, for me personally, that was a huge issue that I had on the PlayStation 4, was that navigating and finding the next game that I want to play always felt like such a drag for me, like having to go all the way back out to the main menu, not being able to just pull up a sidebar like you were able to on Xbox and just, see the last couple of games that you played, but having to go all the way back to the menu. Sometimes it would lag, having to select the game, waiting for it to load, all of that. Or if I wanted to go to my games library, I'd have to click the home button, scroll all the way over to the games library, wait for that to load. Or if I wanted to go into a media app, and PS4 owners, you guys know how bad the TV and media section was on PlayStation 4. All of that is fixed on PlayStation 5, and I'm very, very impressed by it. There's countless features that have been added and countless ways to navigate around. The command center, as they call it, has become my new favorite thing on PlayStation 5 because it just allows me to seamlessly zip between different activities, zip between different pieces of information. I can turn on music, I can adjust my accessories, I can go to my settings, go to my trophies, I can switch games. You can do so much from that command center without having to exit your game. And all of it is so seamless and it's so quick. The menu has not lagged for me at all. I mean, it's so lightning fast. Even going to the store, and it's not the same as it was on PS4, where a lot of these features felt like, when you clicked on the store, it felt like it was taking you to the store. No, the store is like baked into the main menu, where you scroll over to the store, and then everything's just there. You don't have to click on it and open it and wait for the store to load. No, everything is just there from the jump on the main menu. It's all such impressive performance on PlayStation 5. I'm really blown away by how Sony has managed to improve upon the PS4's user interface and make what they've done with the PS5 and leverage that technology to make a truly seamless experience. And really, it does seem like a generational leap forward in terms of usability. Um, Now, overall, the whole package for me, I've been having a great time with it. Um, Backwards compatibility on this thing has been really, really nice. I have been having some color saturation issues, and I'm not even sure if it's my TV or if it's just, the games themselves, or if it's an issue with the backwards compatibility software, or if it's an issue with my TV. But playing Crash Bandicoot, I noticed the colors were a bit oversaturated, and a little bit of the same thing on what is it, Final Fantasy 15. But then other games like Batman Arkham Knight and Days Gone and Detroit Become Human, they looked fine. So I'm not sure what the issue is there. I mean, I know Sony said to look out for some minor bugs and issues in certain titles. So I'm not sure if it's an issue with the PlayStation 5 or is it an issue with my TV or whatever it is. If it's just that specific game doesn't look right on my TV, I don't know. But the backwards compatibility is very impressive. I fired up Final Fantasy 15 just to test and see how it looked and ran, and oh my god, that game looks gorgeous. Now, I'm not sure the specifics of it and how exactly it's supposed to run, but when I checked the information on my TV, it said that it was outputting a 2160p signal, and it said the same thing when I went over and fired up Batman Arkham Knight. And Arkham Knight looks like unlike anything. It looks completely unlike it did on PlayStation 4. It looks like a remaster, honestly. It looks like they released a remaster of the game. That's how sharp it is. And maybe I'm over exaggerating because I'm excited, but I have never seen Batman look better than he does on PlayStation 5. It's really incredible how just baked in on a hardware level. And I know that a lot of games were specifically and I believe all of the PS Plus collection games were enhanced manually, like they manually enhanced those games so they would look better. um but even my VR games like Firewall Zero Hour received enhancements, and I don't even know how they. I guess they leveraged some of the processing power of the PS5 to enhance the visual quality in that game. But that game even looks sharper on the PSVR headset when playing it on PS5. The backwards compatibility has been absolutely great. I've been enjoying it very much. The enhancements that are available for some of these games are amazing, and I watched a Digital Foundry video where they tested a bunch of games. I recommend everybody check that out as well, because what it seems like is that all games are pretty much, if they have an uncapped frame rate, they're going to be running at their best frame rate. They're going to be running at PS4 Pro, with the target fidelity that was targeted on PS4 Pros. But if it has an uncapped frame rate, it's going to be running at a solid 60 pretty much at all times. Like, for instance, one of the games that was mentioned in Digital Foundry was Knack, a game that I've personally been playing and trying to beat for a very, very long time. I keep stopping and starting it. Um, but that game runs at 60 now. It runs at a solid, smooth 60 frames a second now. And that's not even, the developers didn't even have to patch that in. That's just the system working its magic or doing whatever. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that, these games are receiving enhancements. Um, but if you were to ask me about the overall package, would I recommend PS5 now? Do I think it's a system that you should get now? I'd say get it as soon as you can, because especially if you're a PS4 player, get it as soon as you can get it, because pretty much all of the PS4 games that I've tried on it have worked. I've been able to play them all without issue, um, and it enhances them. The UI and the menus are so much better. You're still able to play with your friends from PS4. It's just a better system. It's just a better system. I think it's a worthy upgrade, and especially because of the fact that it's Sony, and we know that Sony is going to deliver great first-party titles. I mean, we've already started off the generation with Spider-Man Miles Morales and Demon Souls, which are both really good first-party exclusives. And I know that Spider-Man Miles Morales is available on PS4, but honestly, if you want the best version of that game, you're going to want to play it on PS5. And even Spider-Man Remastered on PS5, they added ray tracing to that, and it is just wow. It's pretty incredible. Now, I'm not I'm not going to be playing Spider-Man Remastered. I turned it on and just checked out the visuals and swung around the city a little bit to see what it looked like, and it looked like it's using the same ray tracing techniques as Miles Morales. But yeah, that game by itself is it's a very beautiful game. I'm blown away by the fact that they were able to remaster it and make it look like that. And it was only released like 2 years ago. That's just the power of PS5, and we're seeing that in a remaster. Just wait until we start getting those games that are built from the ground up. Like I said, I feel like one of the biggest tests of the PS5's metal will be Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. I feel like it will be because shockingly, a game as cartoony as Ratchet and Clank has proved to be quite the graphical powerhouse. If you folks remember Ratchet and Clank, I believe it was 2016 or 2017 or something like that. It was the one that came out on PS4. That game was graphically and visually extremely impressive. So I think Ratchet and Clank, despite being a more cartoony game, does have an immense amount of potential for really pushing the hardware to its limits, especially with the way that they're going to be utilizing the SSD technology in the system. Overall, though, I'm very satisfied with my PlayStation 5. I can't wait to get a Series X, though, just because I want to see how the Series X handles. I've talked to David, on and off throughout this launch, and we've had a couple of conversations about it. And he's a Series X owner, and he said that he's been very excited about his Series X. He's been loving it. Pretty much the enhancements that they have to older games have been amazing. Quick resume on the load times. And speaking of quick resume, I'm really hoping that that's something that Sony adds to PlayStation 5 at some point. I'm not sure if it can be added to PlayStation 5, because quick resume is something that I believe is really baked into the quote velocity architecture that Microsoft has with the Series X. So I'm not entirely sure if quick resume is something that could be done on PlayStation 5. I hope so, because I think that quick resume would just be the final piece in making PlayStation 5 the most seamless console ever. But time will tell. You still have the cards that you can use. They have this card system on PS5 where you can scroll over to a game and look at like a set of, like tiles that'll tell you like different parts of the games and different objectives and goals. And you can click on those and it'll load you right into the game at that point. So that's kind of like a quick resume, but not really, because you still have to wait for the whole game to load. But I hope that quick resume does get added. I think that is a great feature that the Series X has. But yeah, I can't wait to get my Series X. I can't wait to see how next gen is over on Microsoft's side. But so far for Sony's side, I'm honestly 100% satisfied. I don't really have any complaints. Like I have none. I have no complaints right now. The only thing, I have a few things that I wish were better. I have been running into a few issues specifically with Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I'm not sure if anybody else has too. But I've been running into some weird issues where I had to uninstall it twice. I had to reinstall it twice. And I've just been having some strange issues with it, freezing, some glitches. But I mean, it is the first week of a console launch. I can be patient. I know that these things, it could be way worse for me. I've been able to play my PS5 and run it, pretty much all for hours and hours on end without it overheating, without it, shutting off. And I've only run into issues with Spider-Man Miles Morales specifically. Everything else has been fine. And I guess I should mention that too. The PS5 is whisper quiet. Now, occasionally the fan will rev up. When you first boot it up, it seems like the fan kicks on, and it might just be an automatic cycle to blow dust out of the system. Like that's possible. That's just another precaution to make sure the system is properly cooled. And sometimes and if it's installing a game, the fans will rev up while it's installing a game. But I mean, I think pretty much all systems do that. When they're installing a game, you can hear the fans rev up, but even when the fans are revved up, it's not loud. It's not even close to the noise that you would get out of a PS4 Pro. It's not even close. You can hear it, like it'll probably be there for maybe a couple of seconds, then it'll go away and it'll be absolutely silent. I've played about roughly 20 hours of Spider-Man Miles Morales so far, and I like it's been pretty silent the entire time. And I've just been I've been having a great time with the PlayStation 5. What else can I say? Um, if you are a PS4 fan, I think you're going to love this system. I really, really do. The enhancements here are definitely worth it. I mean, I think it was worth my $500 so far, because I know that there's great games coming. The performance has been amazing. I've been very satisfied with everything. One thing, though, and this is something I hope happens in the future, I hope that when developers learn to better utilize the technology in the PS5, and same thing on Series X, I hope that they're able to do 4K 60 with ray tracing. Now, ray tracing is extremely taxing on hardware, from what I understand. But I just hope that 4K 60 with ray tracing is possible at some point. Because I was playing Spider-Man Miles Morales and I was like, dang, this ray tracing is beautiful. Then I would click over to performance mode and I'm like, man, the 60 frames are so smooth. And I'm like, I just wish, it's like having your peanut butter and your chocolate and not being able to put them together. But I think that's about all that I have to say for this week's Orbit, folks. The system's great. The system is great. I'm having a great time with PS5. I know there's some people who have been encountering some issues out there. I don't think the issues are too widespread, but and I haven't really encountered anything except for my issues with Spider-Man. But I mean, hey, I was able to beat the game pretty fine. So if that's any consolation there. I do highly recommend the system. If you're a PlayStation fan, if you're a PS4 fan who's kind of on the fence about it, I think that it's worth getting now, because at the end of the day, you're going to be able to do everything you were able to do on your PS4. And I'm a PS4 owner who, I had I have a ton of games. I have PSVR. I've tested out PlayStation VR with the aim controllers, with the DualShock 4 controller. I've tested out backwards compatible games. I've tested out PS5 games. Everything runs beautifully. I think this system is worth your time, and I think it is worth your money. And I look forward to the future with PlayStation 5. I'm very impressed. And this is such a turnaround from last generation, where I was very disappointed in what Sony did with PS4 initially. And I have my reasons for that, but this is such a turnaround. I'm super excited about PS5. I'm very impressed. Uh, how many times have I said that this episode? Huh? I'm just excited. I'm excited. But again, that's gonna be it for me this week, folks. Next week, I am going to do my best to organize having David on. I'm going to message him probably right after I get done this, so we can set up a time for next week for us to record this episode. I still do have a lot of schoolwork to do. I still do have a lot of stuff that I want to work on in terms of videos, but I am going to try my best to get everything out as quickly as I possibly can, because I mean, hey, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing Orbit every week. It's kind of become it's become one of those pet projects that I've become quite fond of. So I hope all you folks are enjoying yourselves. If you've got a PS5, if you got a Series X, or even if you're just rocking out with PS4 or Xbox One for now, or hey, if you're in my Nintendo Switch fam, you got to represent the Switch. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon lately myself, and that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the weekend, is probably playing some more Crown Tundra and messing around with the PS5 a little bit more. But anyway, folks, everybody have a good weekend. Take care, and we will see you next week for more Orbit.